Hey, how's it going, my dudes? Welcome back to the second video of my min-maxing guide for Mass Effect Andromeda. This is a series of videos in which I'm explaining the entire process of creating an overpowered build for this game, and hopefully you found it informative so far. In the previous one, I went over the best armor sets currently in Mass Effect Andromeda, so make sure to check that out. It's going to tie in very well with this one. So today I'm going to go ahead and talk about the best weapons in the game, the best augmentations for the weapons, and of course the best mods that you can use in this game, specifically for Insanity, which is the highest difficulty currently. So let's go ahead in the research center and see what we got. So I'm going to analyze them in the order you see here, starting off with each particular category. So starting off with the assault rifles, this is the weakest weapon type in the game currently. Unfortunately, that is the case. Now there are some okay choices here, but they will pale in comparison with other weapon types, even pistols for example. So I'm going to start off with the best ones and I'm going to move on to the next. So this is something that probably a lot of you guys saw coming. In my personal opinion, the best assault rifle currently is the zoned assault rifle. This one has a huge rate of fire, one of the highest rate of fires in the game, and definitely the highest from all the assault rifles. It has a huge clip size. The damage unfortunately isn't that great, and this is something particular to the entire assault rifle class. I hope BioWare somehow buffs them because the damage is simply too low. So there are some interesting builds you can achieve with the zoned assault rifle. One of my favorite ones would be the Seeking Plasma system combined with some kinetic coils. That is something you can achieve. The only reason I'm putting it on the first place isn't because of the overall damage that it can do, but for the fact that it looks absolutely badass, and honestly the difference isn't really that big from assault rifle to assault rifle. Whatever assault rifle you will pick, you're always going to be gimped, unfortunately. So moving on to the next, we have the Remnant assault rifle. This and the Cyclone assault rifle are pretty close to each other. Both of them are automatic, both of them have large clip sizes, and the damage and the rate of fire between these two aren't really that big. So the differences are rather small, and Revenant, even though it has a higher damage per bullet, it has a smaller rate of fire compared to the Cyclone assault rifle. So all in all of that kind of evens out. So between these two, I would say that they are both really close to each other. Now I'm not going to go over all of the assault rifles because there are way too many. Valkyr is just another one that you could use. It definitely has a way higher damage than the previous ones, but it's semi-automatic and it has a lower rate of fire than the other ones. But what I have found in this game is that semi-automatic weapons aren't really that great. You simply click way too much in order to do some mediocre damage, and for me it's just not worth it. That is the current state of assault rifles in the game. It's something that I would never recommend on Insanity unless you really want to make up the challenge. So moving on to the next category, we have pistols, and there are several pistols here that I have used and that I recommend you to use if you want to go with this path. One option is the Hornet SMG. This one is in the Milky Way category. It has a high rate of fire and a high damage. If you see here, it's actually better than assault rifle, but again this one is of course semi-automatic, and that means you will have to spam your clicks quite a lot. Normally you can shoot 3 bullets before having to push the mouse button again. All in all, I see it as mostly an inconvenience. Even though the high rate of fire is there, you're still going to have some downtime because it's a semi-automatic. In this game, semi-automatic weapons aren't that great. Going on to the next one, this is a really tough choice for me. So I would say that on the second place in the pistol category, we have the U-Shear pistol. This is by far the highest damage dealing pistol in the game, but it suffers from a very low rate of fire and clip size. Normally, I would take the Dawn shotgun instead of it, for example, because that one has a higher rate of fire, higher damage, and double the clip size. But I'm putting it on the second place, even though it has the highest damage, just because it has a very low clip size. And even though I can bypass that with a bioconverter and eliminate the reload downtime, I'm still going to get a lot of damage to my HP because every 2 shots I would take 5% damage to my HP. So I'm putting it on the second place in the pistol category, and I'm putting it behind the number one the Equalizer SMG. This one is in the Remnant category and is by far, in my opinion, the best automatic weapon in the game. So if you're ever going to plan to play with an automatic weapon in Mass Effect Andromeda, Equalizer SMG is way better than anything else. And this is the reason why I said that pistols are way better than assault rifles. The max ammo is basically infinite, and if you put a bioconverter on that, you will completely eliminate any downtime of it. And it's really fun to play with. There's some really good augmentations you can put on that, and it's even viable on Insanity. You're not going to do that much damage, but if you want to spice things up, Equalizer SMG is definitely there. Moving on to sniper rifles, here is where it gets a little bit interesting. On one hand, we have the Black Widow sniper rifle, and this has a huge damage. The rate of fire is small, the clip size is rather large for this type of sniper rifle. The reason I'm not putting this on first place is because there's a better one that can achieve way better results with absolutely no additional drawbacks. And of course, I'm talking about the Ishray sniper rifle. This is something that you probably saw on my previous builds. I've used it a lot, at least as a secondary weapon. The Ishray does 1700 damage at level 7, while Black Widow only does 1200 damage. So that's a 500 difference. The rate of fire is higher on the Ishray compared to the Black Widow. The clip size is where all the difference comes. So Ishray has a way lower clip size, a 2 versus the 5 that Black Widow has. So technically speaking, Ishray would be at a slight disadvantage compared to the Black Widow. But as I've said, there's bioconverters in this game. We can bypass the max clip size drawbacks. We don't care about that, and bioconverter completely eliminates any downsize the Ishray would have against the Black Widow. And the fact that it does additional 500 damage compared to the Black Widow is just too good to pass. There are some automatic sniper rifles here. One of them that I'm going to mention is the Raptor sniper rifle. This is something that you're not going to be able to research. It's a craftable one that you find randomly in encounters. The way I'm playing with this is as if it were an assault rifle. So you can technically use the Raptor sniper rifle as an assault rifle. So it has a good accuracy, a high rate of fire, and a high amount of damage for something like this. So it's definitely a viable choice. I would put this honestly on the third place. So that is all in this category. There is no really other better choice than this. So we are going to move on to the shotguns. So you're probably familiar with my builds so far. If you haven't, make sure to check some of them. But as I've said, shotguns are the best weapons in the game currently. There are so many choices here and all of them are so good. It's really hard to compete with shotguns. One of my favorite ones, and the ones that you saw me playing the most with, is the Dawn shotgun. This is the highest damage dealing weapon in the game currently. And unlike the other shotguns, this one only shoots one ball of energy. So if you're, for example, playing against architects or against ascended ones, which have those annoying shields that need to be taken down fast, the Dawn shotgun is absolutely massive. Now, it has a low rate of fire and a rather small clip size, but trust me, you can really compensate with this. You can play with a build which is really up close and personal, and you can just murder everything with 1 or 2 shots at most. Even the toughest enemies will not need more than 5 or 6 shots to be dropped down if you do a proper build. Dawn shotgun is something that I will have to put on the first place here, and I'm a little bit torn apart here because Piranha shotgun isn't that far behind. I would actually put Piranha and Dawn in the same spot. So number 1 for both of these because of the way they work. So Piranha, even though it has about half the damage, it has more than double the rate of fire and a way bigger clip size. The accuracy is half of the Dawn shotgun, but the way augmentations work with this one, we can make a really overpowered weapon with bioconverter and seeking plasma system, and with that you will completely eliminate any accuracy downfalls. And honestly, between these two, I would say they are both very suited for Insanity. They are the go-to weapons if you play Insanity. They are just a little bit different for the way they work. For example, the Piranha shotgun isn't really that great against ascended ones because of the way that the bullets get scattered, and they're not that great to focus on the little dot or the little thing that levitates around the ascended one and that is needed to be shot down in order to take off his shield. Dan is better in that scenario, but for anything else, Piranha is just as good because even though it has a lower damage, the higher rate of fire compensates for that. And if you combine this with turbocharge, as you've seen me previously doing, you can achieve such high amounts of damage, you're going to melt everyone's face off. Between these two, I'm not going to put them on different spots. They are both number one for me, and it's just a matter of preference. I went with both of them. I upgraded both of them because I just love the way these weapons work. But there are other honorable mentions here that I would go ahead and talk about. One of them is the scatter shot shotgun from the remnant category. This is what I used for my biotic overpowered build, and for the fact that it has infinite ammo and it doesn't need a bioconverter, I was able to put a shield oscillator on it, and I could receive a 25% shield back with every shot that I was doing because the max clip size was set to only one. That's how I modified it. If you want to see the full story of this, go ahead and check my biotic god build. It explains perfectly how to achieve that. Hash shotgun is definitely another good choice. It has a higher rate of fire than the Piranha and the damage is really great. So if you want to try things out and go with a shotgun that basically has a high rate of fire and very good damage, Hash is another good one. So moving on to the melee, this is an interesting part over here. Now I'm going to say something that probably a lot of people will disagree upon, but in my opinion, the best sword here is the Asari sword. It's not the highest damage dealing melee weapon in the game, but it is close to the top one. So Asari sword is the only one that gives you invincibility frames and enemy tracking baked into it. Melee in Mass Effect Andromeda is already clunky enough, so Asari sword kind of helps up with that because of the fact that it has enemy tracking and it provides invincibility frames. Next to it, I would say we have the Cat Varkash, the highest damage dealing melee weapon in the game. This one also adds burning damage per second, and it's quite a big chunk. This one does significantly more damage than the Asari sword, but unfortunately the melee mechanics are very clunky and really bring this one down. If the melee mechanics weren't as clunky as they currently are, I would put this one on the first place. There's another cat weapon that is very good, and I'm talking about the Cat Carphalon. So this one has similar damage to the Asari sword when upgraded to level 7. I didn't upgrade mine because I didn't use it. It has regeneration baked into it, so every time you hit an enemy, you either regenerate health or shields. I can't remember which one was it, but honestly, this one yet again is brought down by the way melee works in Andromeda. It's just too clunky and unreliable. I'd rather get better sources when it comes to health or shield regeneration. So let's move on to the augmentations, and I'm going to show you the augmentations that are always a staple for my build. One of the best that I always use is the bioconverter. It completely eliminates the need to recharge the weapon or to reload the weapon. It completely eliminates the downtime from that, and you will be able to shoot continuously at the cost of 5% of your HP every time the clip size would otherwise empty. Something that I always use on all my builds is the kinetic coil. Kinetic coil increases the raw weapon damage, and you even saw me recommending this on the chest pieces. So kinetic coil is something that you will need to farm. You can get this at the Nexus, or you can even buy them on Eladen at the vendors. So definitely make sure to stack up on these. We have the biotic damage booster. This is something you would put on a biotic god build or an adept build. Seeking plasma system. This is another staple for the overpowered shotgun build. It's something you would slap on a Piranha. It basically makes it so that all the bullets will now follow the enemies. The best part of it is that this is the only projectile augmentation which doesn't reduce the projectile damage. Another one would be the shield oscillator. This one you saw me on my biotic god build. This one tied in very well with the lance spamming build, and it basically makes it so that if you put it on the weapon, every time your clip size empties, it restores 25% of your shield. Vintage heatsink is something that I see people using instead of bioconverter, and it's definitely an alternative. This one automatically refills your ammo after a small delay, but as I've said, I would rather prefer the 5% damage to my HP and not have any downtime at all. So now that we're done with that, I'm going to go over the mods. So there's a multitude of mods which you can apply on your weapons, but I'm going to go over them depending on the type of build that we were using. So for example, example, if I go with a powerful weapon build, I'm always going to go with the long barrel, the one that increases the raw weapon damage. Another really good one is the weapon penetration. This lets you do damage to enemies behind cover. If you're planning to go with a melee centric build such as the Vanguard build, this is something that you should always put on your weapon even if you don't use it. The 30% melee damage bonus is simply too good to pass. So definitely one of the best mods for a melee build out there. And that is basically it. Those are all the augmentations that I usually use. So yeah, this was the weapon guide in my min and maxing series. I hope you guys found it informative and enjoyable. But yeah, I will see you guys next time.